Imagine wanting to visit your friend in a city that's hundreds of miles away. Usually that means a long car ride or a trip to a busy airport. But what if you could get there in the time it takes to watch a movie? This is the incredible promise of the Hyperloop, a super-fast new way to travel that feels like it's straight out of a science fiction story. It's not a train, and it's not a plane. Instead, it's a completely new idea that could connect our world in ways we've only dreamed of, making long distances feel short and bringing far-off places closer than ever before. Think of it like a giant straw with all the air sucked out. The Hyperloop is a system of long sealed tubes that create a special environment with very low air pressure, almost like a vacuum. Inside these tubes, passenger pods, which look a bit like sleek, futuristic capsules, can travel without having to push through the air that usually slows things down. This is where another cool science concept comes in: magnetic levitation, or maglev for short. Powerful magnets are used to lift the passenger pod slightly off the track, so it floats on a cushion of magnetic force. Since it isn't touching anything, there's no friction to slow it down, which means it can move smoothly and quietly. The idea of traveling through tubes isn't completely new, but it was brought into the modern spotlight by a famous inventor you might know, Elon Musk. Back in 2013, he released a detailed proposal, a sort of blueprint, called the Hyperloop Alpha Paper. He was so busy with his other big projects like SpaceX and Tesla that he decided to share the idea with the world for free, encouraging other smart people and companies to take the concept and run with it. He wanted to inspire a new generation of engineers and dreamers to solve the puzzle of ultra-fast ground transportation, kicking off a global race to build the first working system. Since Elon Musk shared his vision, many innovative companies around the world have jumped at the challenge. Companies like Virgin Hyperloop, which later became Hyperloop One, and Heart Hyperloop in Europe have built full-scale prototypes. They've constructed long tubes, designed and tested passenger pods, and even conducted the first-ever human tests, where real people have safely traveled inside a pod through a near-vacuum tube. Right now, progress is happening all over the globe. Test tracks in places like the Nevada desert and facilities in Europe are buzzing with activity. Engineers are solving complex problems, from creating perfect seals on the tubes to designing comfortable and safe pods for passengers. They are also developing the advanced software needed to control the entire system, ensuring every pod travels safely to its destination. What would it feel like to ride inside a Hyperloop pod? Forget the loud rumbles of a train or the shaking of an airplane during takeoff. The experience is designed to be incredibly smooth and peaceful. Once you're settled into your comfortable seat, the pod will begin to accelerate, but it will feel more like a gentle, steady push rather than a sudden jolt. Because the pod is floating on magnets and moving through a tube with almost no air, there are no bumps from tracks or turbulence from weather. You could sip a drink or read a book without any interruptions, gliding silently toward your destination at super high speeds. The inside of a Hyperloop pod would look more like a calm, modern lounge than a typical vehicle. Since there are no windows to the outside, traveling that fast would just be a blur anyway. The pods could have digital screens that show a virtual landscape, a movie, or information about your journey. Even though you'd be traveling at over 700 miles per hour, you wouldn't feel the speed in the way you might think. While the idea of Hyperloop is incredibly exciting, there are some big challenges to overcome before it becomes a part of our daily lives. One of the biggest hurdles is the cost. Building miles and miles of high-tech tubes, both above and below ground, is a massive and expensive undertaking. It requires huge investments in materials, technology, and labor. Another significant challenge is getting the land needed to build the Hyperloop routes. The tubes need to be built in very straight lines to maintain high speeds, which means they would have to cross through cities, farms, and natural landscapes. On top of cost and land, creating a whole new set of safety rules is essential. Because Hyperloop is a brand new technology, there are no existing regulations for it. Despite these challenges, the potential of Hyperloop is too great to ignore. If we can overcome these obstacles, the benefits would be world-changing. Hyperloop could drastically reduce our reliance on airplanes for short to medium-distance travel, which would significantly cut down on carbon emissions and help fight climate change. It could connect cities in new economic and social mega-regions, allowing people to live in one city and work in another without a long commute. This could spread opportunities and reduce overcrowding in major urban centers. Hyperloop is more than just a fast ride. It's a vision for a cleaner, more connected, and more efficient future.